SSM Wednesday Global Africa gives out our stories, exclusive reporting and SSM perspectives on the day's top news, plus the inside scoop on important social issues. Join us every Wednesday 11 a.m. West African time. SSM Wednesday Global Africa gives out our stories, exclusive reporting and SSM perspectives on the day's top news, plus the inside scoop on important social issues. Join us every Wednesday 11 a.m. West African time. SSM Wednesday Global Africa gives out our stories, exclusive reporting and SSM perspectives on the day's top news, plus the inside scoop on important social issues. Join us every Wednesday 11 a.m. West African time.
Yes, SSM Global World News Reporting, exclusive reporting, gentlemen. We do this every Wednesday, 11 a.m. West African time. My name is Mark Godwin Iweajuwan, and you're welcome to today, the 22nd of May, 2024, and we're here to give our global update. As usual, we have great men, coordinators, intelligent, witty, from different parts of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria, is Ogbeni Olayinka Raji joining the SSM Wednesday update. You're welcome, sir.
Glad to be here. Good morning, viewers around the world, and good morning, Mark.
Morning. It's good to see you.
Yeah, yes. My pleasure, man.
It's also great to see our man, coordinator in Toronto, Canada, Sir George Chukwu. You're welcome. Oh, there, Sir George, your mic needs to be checked on. Your mic, Sir George. Okay, Raji, we are here today, and it's all kind of news. First of all, before we go into discussions and news update, let me ask this, Raji. Let me ask you this. What does it cost the federal government of Nigeria to train people in skill acquisition? What will it cost our government to do that for the good of our future and for the benefit of the citizens? Young people being trained now. Raji, tell me, what will it cost? Because it seems like we're not heading to that path. It looks like our youths are not acquiring any skill. Our youths are just going for the academics, yes, university, but it's now going to be a future loaded with skills. So skill acquisition is the key. Tell me, Raji, what do you think it will cost the federal government to do that?
First and foremost, there should be the intention to do that. And I don't think this government has the intention to do that, unless maybe it's suggested to them. So far, this government is only interested in governance, in being in power, and doing whatever it is that it wants to do. I do not think that there's any structured methodology for acquisition of skills by our teeming population of youths, which the government consistently. The government constantly pushes for the fact that the youthful population of demographics of the youth is about 50% of the population, and yet what's the benefit of a population that has no skills?
Wonderful.
And the government, yes, there's no clear intention from the government side that they want the youth to acquire skills.
Okay, thank you, Raji. Honest talking you just done now. George, we hope you can hear us now. We can't hear you right now. We can't hear you yet, George. Raji, you know why I'm putting this. Yes, somebody raised up this talk. That's Labour Congress, former Labour Congress presidential candidate Peter Obi. He noticed it. He observed it and said, Nigerian government is not doing much training youths for the future. And of a truth, we think it's something to talk about. It's not a topic today. We're going to come into this next time, Raji. I hope George will also make it too. George, we're not hearing you, but it's okay. I think probably go off and reload. Okay, Raji, Thank you very much. Honest talk, you dropped. Let's come now to our topics and news updates for the day. Labour Congress rejects federal government minimum wage of 54,000 naira. The news is that the president of Labour Congress, Joe Ajiro, said that is unsubstantial. He said the proposal is unsubstantial, that they asked for 615,000 naira, and government went far below what they asked for. So the federal government said they want to pay 54,000 naira as minimum wage, and Labour says no, they are not taking it. Raji, how much is ideal for a minimum wage for the average Nigerian worker?
It's not a matter of ideal. It's a matter of the fact there have never been any instance where the government has been able to pay the wages that the workers demanded. However, before we can do all these things about wage increase and things, one has to get the economy stable. The economy has to be stable. If the economy is not stable, this new government came in and brought in a lot of variables. The first thing was the increase in the price of fuel. The price of fuel went from 180 to almost 600 naira per liter. At that point, there's no amount of minimum wage that you can pay to any worker that could sustain him. Two, the government is talking about removing subsidy on electricity. The price of foodstuff have gone more than 3 times. And how people survive even on the current minimum wage, which is not even fully paid by most states, is surprising to me. So before we talk about an ideal, there can never be an ideal minimum wage until the economy is stabilized. And the moment there's an increase in salary, there's an abominably high increase in the cost of living, which immediately negates whatever gains that the workers think they have gotten from that salary increase. So there's no ideal, and even at now. But I can say that both points, both the Labour Party and the government are not being realistic. There can never be a way that the minimum wage could ever go beyond 100,000 per month. Okay. I don't see it happening. So the demand for 615,000 as minimum wage is very, very unrealistic. Yes.
Okay. So, but anyway, talks continue today. Like we heard, they said they'll be having more deliberations, and it will be closed door. We wonder why it will be closed door.
Whether they closed door or they open door.
To open it. Sir George, can you hear us? Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me see. Can you?
Yes, we can hear you, Sir George. Yes, we can hear you. You're welcome. Yes, we can hear you. Okay. You're welcome, Sir George. Welcome. Yeah. So so we started with
and the viewers around the world.
The voice is still cracky.
No, it's okay. I think
it's still cracky.
Yeah. No. It's good from my end.
Okay.
Yes, it's good from the studio. Okay. Don't worry.
So anyway, you were asking a question before. Let me just deal with that, for a brief moment. What would it cost the government of Nigeria to intentionally and decisively decide to train the youth of our population? You mentioned that we have about 50% of our young population. Most of them are graduates. Most of them are graduating. So this is something that, for a nation that thinks in the future, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And we're seeing little signs or spots of it with all the insurgencies and the problem that we're having all over the nation, simply because of unemployment, simply because of industries are coming into the country, and we are not training our youths to become real resources around the world, like what India did. The reason why they're not doing that is simply because of this. Number one, weaponization of poverty will make all the nation become vulnerable to the elite that are ruling us. That's number one. If they really are servant leaders, rather than just being political leaders that can think about the future and want to make a name for and prosper the nation, they know what to do. But one thing I can guarantee you is that they are not doing it intentionally. Because as long as you keep them poor, keep them desperate, if you throw a crumb on the ground, the dogs and the humans will scramble to get those things. That is so bad. Don't tell me that they don't know. Look at the world around them. They don't know what is happening in China. They don't know what is happening in India. They don't know what is happening all over the world. They know what to do. But this is an intentional, purposeful behavior among our politicians to keep the people weaponized with poverty so that they cannot open their eyes. Let me tell you what is really happening here. The same thing the Europeans and all these our colonized countries are doing to us in Africa is what our politicians are being nurtured to do to our own people. And that's the reason they don't want any clean person to become a president or a prime minister in Africa. They want somebody with a corrupt background so that they can always squeeze that person the way they want. That's the reason. If not, what is stopping them? Nothing.
If not, what is stopping them? George, you just put it very more stronger. Yes, it's a very sad situation, gentlemen, and I'm happy you both realize this. A skilled, acquired people generation stands to gain a lot as the future rolls by. Yes,
Mark, one second, please. Let me give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. India.
Okay.
India, when you come to Canada and you come to America, what they specialize in, they love science, they love accounting, they love math, they love all those things. But when technology came in, IT and all that kind of stuff, they in their own country developed and made sure that their people are so well prepared for the upcoming, revolution that is going on. Yes. And today they are leading everywhere you are. In Canada, they are being brought in so easily. They come in because they have skills to present. They have skills to maintain the revolution that is going on, the IT revolution that is going on. So these are countries that are thinking of progressively, not the people that are thinking with their pockets. So that's what we're seeing in Nigeria. And anybody that rises up, listen to this, any individual that rises up in Nigeria and begin to think like the white man, they will do everything to suppress that individual and make sure that person does not become a leader.
Yes, that's what's happening. But now, gentlemen, let's come back. Since we're talking about this, let's put this. What about, since the government is not making this effort, what about organizations, individuals that can? What about them stepping in? Because there are individuals in Nigeria that can set up technical, vocational schools. There are organizations also. Raji, you belong to the Rotary.
Yes.
I mean, the Rotary could think in this line, organize vocational schools, or vocational summer camps, like a 2-month, 3-month skill acquiring camp. I mean, these are things that should be done, not partying. We have done too many parties in Nigeria. Too many music and entertainment is what drives us, and we're still not even making money out of that too. But it's time to think in and it's time to begin to acquire skills. It's
Yes.
diverse. You have so many genre of skills. Thank you. Go
Yes.
ahead, Raj.
There are a lot of incubation centers in Nigeria, mostly in the southwest, where they are trying as much as possible to give to youth some level of skill. The Rotary Foundation has something like that, and every year we have the camp that we do at Apapa, the Apapa camp, where we bring youths, more than 300 youths together, and try to infuse them with creative ideas that they can develop later on their own, because we plant the seed for their creativity, and then they can build on it. Every human being is born with a creative spirit, and most people's creativity are killed by the time they are 10, 11. But what the Rotary does is to actually regenerate that creativity in man, and be able to help him to build on that, on the foundation that he already has, and then affords him various perspectives where he can actually come into it to do what he has to do. There are a lot of incubation centers, and there are a lot of individuals doing a lot of things to do that. Yes.
George, incubation centers. Yes.
You see, you do something for which the benefits exceeds the cost. You know a dead fish when it starts taking from the head. That's one of my favorite quotes. Number one, if you don't create a very conducive environment for such to take place, who wants to waste their time to train these youths when the environment is not conducive for industries to come in, for industries to come and harness the light is not there? There is no electricity in our country. We're still dancing in 2024. Just belly aching and whining like, we are just still in 1940. So tell me any wise thinking man who wants to invest on the youth, and after they are trained, there are no industries, there are no conducive environment for industries to come in, or technological industries to come in and invest. I know Canada, for many years, we are actually moving, most of their customer service was in India. India, can you imagine? Many percentage of the customer services were in India. It was being, done simply because they were ready. They were ready. The light was there. The infrastructures were there. So they can effectively and efficiently function to the perfection and to the satisfaction of their employer here in North America. So tell me, why would I go over there and train people, and after I train them, and they go to the streets and start doing Yahoo with, the IT that I have taught them, because there are no jobs.
That's what I was going to put.
That's what is going on.
The essence of also being trained is to use for the good of mankind, use for the good of the community.
Exactly.
So I know some young people also that have some of these skills, but there's no value to it. It doesn't bring any return. It's just acquired skill for the sake of acquiring the skill. You see, so George has put it well. The environment now enables that skill that is acquired to become productive, to become valuable,
yes,
to become.
I agree.
Yes, yes. So, that's it.
Just a moment. Okay. At the moment in the construction industry, most of our tilers, most of our masons, most of our all of them come from Benin Republic or Togo or Ghana, because those people have acquired skills, and probably their youth are also more patient. In Nigeria, the average youth wants to be rich and doesn't want to take that time to acquire that skill and perfect that skill and use that skill to earn income. The situation in the country is such that it doesn't give them the chance to even want to nurture whatever they have, because everybody's in a hurry.
So that
Today,
means, like George is also saying, that means that
yes,
it's a fault from both ends. The government for
yes,
not providing enabling environment, and the citizens, the young people, the Gen Z and Gen O and all the generation, not also doing what they should do. Acquire the skill,
patient enough,
work on it. Yes.
patient
Good,
enough to
good
nurture
talk.
whatever they have. Yes.
Gentlemen,
The, the
we've
point is
lingered
this. The
we've
point,
lingered long on this topic, but
okay,
it's a
all right.
serious issue. It's a very serious issue.
It is a very
We will.
serious issue.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And it's something that needs to be tackled, because what is going to happen, our future depends on it. And if we are not
In the next,
able to fix this situation right now, this is a disaster waiting to happen in the future.
waiting to happen.
We
Yes.
gotta be very,
Yes.
very careful. The reason
In
why tell me the reason why a country as intelligent as Nigeria, with the kind of blessings that we have received from the Almighty, will be in such a deplorable state. Nature abhors vacuum, and these leaders are creating a vacuum that is being filled by the negative forces rather than the positive forces. That's why we're still here.
yes.
That's the reason why, sometimes it's just our country becomes so laughable. Honestly, because it's glaring in our faces. We're seeing a whole lot of, educated, enlightened individuals just leaving the country, and to them it's a joke. What do we know the kind of human resources we are losing into other countries? They go there and do so many things. Doctors are leaving Nigeria. Engineers are leaving Nigeria. Even so, tell me the incentive for anybody to go and sit down and study, when those that have been so discouraged are looking at the government, are looking at your leaders, and they're siphoning your money, they're taking your money, and we're still arguing about minimum wage right now with all the inflation and everything that is going on, and yet you want them to go to school and sit down. They're looking at these people, with a glamorous life, because they're doing 419, doing Yahoo boys, they're doing these things. And what is happening with them is they are showcasing that they are prospering through their own negative intelligence, or they're harnessing the positive intelligence to negative, aspect, that they're making money out of it. So that's what the youths are. So there is a vacuum that the leaders are creating, and someone or people that are there to bring a change, a permanent change in our country, they're being fought against. That's the kind of nation that we have. Unfortunately, but it is so.
This is interesting. I really don't mind if we use half of the time to talk about this, because it's really serious. And we've
It's a serious
actually used
matter.
half of the time. But the remaining few minutes, we have to go to break. George, we also talked about what you just said now, the minimum wage situation. As at this morning, I think right about now, an ongoing meeting is there in Abuja between the Labour Congress and the federal government. Now, the federal government says they are staying on 54,000 naira, while Labour is saying 615,000 naira. Raji said both ends are not being realistic. Raji, is that not what you said? That
Yes, sir.
yes. Let's go on that again. Raji, say what you say so George can take it from there.
Yes. Between 54,000 and 615,000 is a wide gap. Both government and the Labour Party are not Labour Union are not really realistic. There's no way that Nigeria's economy can afford 615,000 as minimum wage, and there's no way the average Nigerian can survive on 54,000 naira per month. It is unless we get the economy stable, unless we try to bring the indications, the indices that spike cost of living include cost of fuel, special cost of fuel, and that single index is what is causing everything is stability. So if the government can bring down the cost of fuel to like 300 per liter, I'm sure things will start to stabilize.
George, let me just ask you first. What is your ideal minimum wage for Nigeria, the average Nigerian worker?
Are you asking me?
Yes, George.
Yes.
Well, you see, number one, studies have been done, and they know the average family with at least 4 children, what they can survive on. The reason why you see bribery and corruption in Nigeria is simply because people are not earning enough. Police officers are not earning enough. And most of the time, the police officers that are there taking bribes are simply because they have to take care of the orga on top. Because they're all from top to bottom, all corrupt. Like it or not, is real.
It's real.
So now, the average is when you take all the indices. Number one, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. And Nigeria is still mourning up until today for the past 8 years plus this current government. And they're still dancing around. Okay, now, I can tell you, if you take all the indices and at least take it all together, they're talking about 54,000. I believe that 150,000 will be the minimum wage of Nigeria. The reason why I say 150, listen to this, is simply because the private industries, hotels, and all those, if they are forced to increase their minimum wage also, what is going to end up happening is that prices of things will continue to rise. It is already risen. Inflation is there. Gas prices are there. All those indices are just showing you that the inflation is so bad. When you move that particular minimum wage so high, what is going to end up happening is that most of these hotels will not be able to afford to pay them unless you and I, when we go and stay in this hotel, we're going to be paying arm and a leg, which is already happening, and it will go up higher. So when you're considering what the government is doing and the civil servants are there with them, the police officers and those that are working, you have to consider the private sector too, because this minimum wage will affect them. So that's how we think. So if we bring it on an average from 615 to 54,000, let's bring it all the way down to 150. To average things out a little bit, make them at least breathe, like the former deplorable president said, let the poor breathe. And let them breathe for a moment.
For a moment. Thank you, George.
I can tell you the reason why this Labour Party, the Labour Congress is insisting on that is simply because they know that it is impossible for the government to agree to 600 and something. So they're leaving it so high so that when they come up a little bit, they will come a little on the average to bring it up a little bit. But listen to this. Who fought against the senators and the House of Representatives when they increased wage for themselves?
That's
the
it.
The whole nation was crying out. What did they do? They went ahead and approved that.
Yes, we're going to come to this. George, good one. So Labour Congress, Nigerian Labour Congress, if you're listening to SSM, we here say our own take is 150, and let that stick with the government's own wage too. So minimum wage, we are saying, is 150. That will be considerable for the average Nigerian as today. George, good one. The meeting is going on. They reconvened the meeting this Wednesday. So let's see the outcome by tonight and know what they've concluded. Gentlemen, I want to thank you. George, you came real strong on all of this. Let's go on a small break. And we'll be back. More strong issues, more very hot topics. We'll be back, gentlemen. We'll be back. Thank you.
Serve our Father. unity.
This country has some of the most extraordinary culinary diversity in the world. I'm talking about Nigeria. This first dish is amala abula, made popular by the Yoruba people in southwest Nigeria. It starts with amala made from dried yam and then is covered in a variety of soups. Next we have ofe nsala, a white soup that is synonymous with the Igbo people of southeastern Nigeria. It goes best with fufu, or akbo as the Igbos call it. Next we have suya, the most well-known food of the Hausa and Fulani people of northern Nigeria. Meat is covered in a peanut-based powder called yaji and cooked over an open fire. This is banga and starch, a classic of the Urhobo people of Delta State. Lastly, we have onunu, a plantain-based swallow of the Izon people in south-south Nigeria. We are eating it with fisherman soup, popular throughout this whole region. And of course, we don't forget the jollof rice. This is popular everywhere in Nigeria. I think what makes Nigeria so great is the diversity of all the different people coming together. These beautiful ethnic groups living side by side, sharing culture and cuisine is what makes Nigeria such an amazing country to visit. Nigerians should be so proud of that cultural heritage, as there is so much more that unites than divides them.
SSM Wednesday Global Africa gives out our stories, exclusive reporting and SSM perspectives on the day's top news, plus the inside scoop on important social issues. Join us every Wednesday 11 a.m. West African.
Join us. Hope you're hooked up with us. Yes, we give our very, very special updates, exclusive reporting. George is here from Toronto, Canada, and Olayinka Raji is here. Gentlemen, another issue that is burning is what we're hearing. I mean, some of these stories, you begin to wonder. Retired police officers protest over unpaid pension. Let's see this clip before we continue. So what you're seeing there, gentlemen, is the protest was happening yesterday up till 5-6 o'clock in the evening, Abuja time, and they are all different police officers from different chapters of the country. They are all on one cause, lamenting on the untold hardship they have faced over their pension not being paid. The retired police officers all came together in Abuja and said they have to now protest. Meanwhile, we all know that regardless of whatever financial crisis we're going through in Nigeria, the ex-governors and their vice all collect pension. Members of the House of Rep, a lot of ex-members and all that all collect pension. And these police officers are going through this. And we complain of police taking bribe. George, you just talked about that. And I mean, imagine where people are not paid. These are old men that put in their service to the country, and they are now meant to stay without no support. Raji, how do you feel? It's disheartening. Raji, let's hear from you first.
The annoying thing is that most of the pensions might have been stolen by people who are supposed to manage the pension. We remember the case of the last guy who was brought to court for squandering more than 23 billion naira of police pension.
Yes.
He was brought to court. The case is still in court.
Yes.
The man was asked to refund some amount, but there's nothing has happened. Recently, we heard about the government going to dip its hands into pension funds for whatever infrastructure they intend to do. And people are saying that, look, leave pensioners' money alone. Don't invest pensioners' funds, so that when the person goes into retires, he can claim all the pension he has been paying for the past 35 years. But the government is still adamant that they have to spend the pensions fund, which goes into trillions, for some infrastructure. The infrastructure including probably the 15 trillion they want to spend on a road. Leave pension. Most people, the police pension funds have been squandered, have been stolen by the person who are supposed to be managing it.
Managing
The
it.
case is in court. As for those,
But they won't also go and invest the governors and the president, all these people's
no.
pension.
It's that's entirely different. That's entirely different. In fact, we shouldn't bring that one in at all, because those governors, those VPs, that's a complete different. We shouldn't even muddy the waters with their own. But for a man who has spent 35 years working for a pension, he has been contributing to that pension, and that pension has been mismanaged by somebody, and the case is in court. The last time I heard was that the man was even given an option of a fine of maybe for 750 million or 750,000 in lieu of. Meanwhile, the man has squandered $23 billion naira. What is that?
It's George.
It is sad. It is sad. It is sad. If you know, let me tell you something. When you take a gun and kill somebody, they come after you. When you intentionally and publicly poison somebody to death, they come after you. But there are so many that are dying in that country. The police officers, the education, the professors in schools, many of them. There are three different factions of people in Nigeria when it comes to pension. Number one is the people who have stolen enough, looted enough for their old age. They don't need pensions, but they're still being paid pensions. The governors, and some of those in the offices, some who will take enough bribe to sustain their future. But you come to see the intelligent, righteous civil servants who want to maintain the status quo and maintain their decorum and integrity. Then when they leave office at the age of 65, which is mandatory retirement for Nigerians, they will now go and they'll be suffering. Many of them are not able to maintain. I know how many stories in the eastern part of Nigeria where professors are standing in line for their pensions and dropped dead in the middle while they were there. We have these stories. So let me ask you a question. I didn't take a gun to kill you, but I set up a stage whereby you'll be frustrated to death and you die prematurely. Who is guilty of that murder? Because, look at this, sometimes we do not understand that nature listens, and sometimes grace is given to some people to repent. When they don't, things will begin to happen. We saw what happened in Iran a few days ago. What is it? Why is it that a man will die and many of their citizens will come out to mourn, but the other people are rejoicing and celebrating because he called a butcher man? No, I want you to pay attention, because we have butcher men in Nigeria, police officers that have stood on the sun many years, and many of them, go through dangers. They will leave their houses. They don't know if they're coming back, because thieves and robbers can kill them, or they can have an accident because in the courses of their jobs. When they retire, there is nothing to give them. But the politicians are living fancy. Are they not part of the government? Are they not the institution of the government?
Yes.
Why would I allow them to be suffering like that?
These are questions, very pertinent questions we have to put out. So anyway, and I also know, George and Raji, I know that in 2019, I guess, the Federal High Court in Ikoyi, Lagos State, ordered the federal government to recover pensions collected by all the serving ministers and governors and National Assembly. Yes, it's a case still in court, but they are not adhering to it. They are not following it up. Governors still end. We want to thank the governor of Abia State, Alex. The governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, signed a bill in Abia State, and he has repealed that law. No more, any governor from Abia State gets no pension. Assistant governor, whatever they may be, no more pension for them in Abia State. And we want all the other states to follow suit. I mean, these governors, like you've all said, gentlemen, they've earned enough. I mean, they really want to muzzle the ordinary man in Nigeria. Just take them out, out of existence.
I want to ask you. I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
This particular Alexoti that you just spoke about recently. I was in Nigeria the day that Okezie Ikpeazu won the election. I was in his house on that Sunday. On the Sunday after the election, I was in his house. He made a promise that he was not going to be like the Ojus or Carlo and the other Carlos that came before him. That he was going to be different. But he came out, he became worse than them. Alex Oti just mentioned the kind of deplorable state the finances of Abia State was put in. He mentioned it. Why is the FCC not coming after them? Why is it that the Eastern governors can do all this mess that they're doing? Nobody is saying anything. They're looking at Yaya Bello. What about the Eastern governors that have been siphoning money and putting people in such a deplorable state that they're not even able to breathe? And the EFCC is still there. They're not doing anything. Is it because they want the people in the Eastern region to suffer? Let their governors, make them slaves and step upon their heads?
On them. We're going to come on this, George. We're going to come. This talk is also something that should be looked into. So, anyway, we want the federal government to please settle with these police officers, retired police officers, and pay them their pension. Pay them their pension. Federal government of Nigeria. This is not fair. These are men, family men, grandfathers, grand uncles, and people that, like we've said here, that have put into service. They've made efforts for the country. Okay, let's move on, gentlemen. Let's move on to let's do one African news. There is also some crazy story coming out of Mali. A prominent Malian economist has been sentenced because he's standing up against this military junta, and that's a professor, a man called Fakaba Sisseko. Fakaba Sisseko is presently being held because he's standing up and saying a lot of things that the government don't want him to say. So we as media people, we don't agree to closing or holding up anybody, jailing anybody because of their statements for freedom. So Sisseko has been sentenced to 2 years in jail, 1 year suspended for his criticism of the military government currently ruling Mali, and he was also fined about $4,900. That's the man there on the screen, viewers, if you're seeing him. So, gentlemen, let's talk about freedom of press, freedom of expression in Africa. How do somebody say something and the next day they come for you? I mean, so go ahead, Raji.
So it makes me remember what President Idi Dada Amin said about freedom of speech. That there's freedom of speech, but freedom after speech is still up in the air. Now, so sometimes I wonder about our so-called intellectuals who cannot gauge the situation in the country before they start making statements. We know that most of our educated economists and things are trained in the Bretton Woods policy things, which is in most cases against the progress of the average African state.
Mm-hmm.
Every African country that goes with the Bretton Woods policies ends up in poverty. Most of these people are trained in that way. He must just be. He is not very, very wise by not gauging the situation in Mali before making all those statements. You have to gauge it. So I mean, if he deserves whatever he gets, but please don't let us put too much emphasis on freedom of speech, because the freedom of speech doesn't give you the freedom to insult the policies of the government, to go against majority decisions. We have to be very careful.
George,
We
do
have
you
to
think
always remember.
uh,
Listen. I am here in Canada and I see a vehicle driving with a sign behind them cussing Trudeau. I mean, I cannot even say it on air what he said about Trudeau.
your prime minister?
My prime minister. And I have seen when Trudeau, I was with him during the campaign when he was being, disrespected and cussed. I saved him that day because I started, because a group of people came and they were calling him all kinds of names. And I turned around and had the crowd behind us to start chanting, "We want Trudeau, we want Trudeau." If it wasn't because of that, because he wanted to engage them, it would have been very difficult. And I told him not to do so. Listen to this. Number one, yes, there is freedom of speech. But also, there is a difference between respectfully dealing with a subject matter rather than insulting the individual.
Okay.
Do you understand?
You
can talk about what they do wrong with all due respect, but don't insult the individual. The reason why Nnamdi Kanu is still locked up today and why I believe that Buhari is still making calls under the table to keep him there is because of all the insult that he received. And not only him, even a lot of governors from the eastern part of Nigeria. So you cannot just open up your mouth and start, verbalizing all manner of nonsense, like, somebody that is untrained and undisciplined. So now deal with the subject, talk about the subject. If the individual is doing wrong about the subject, let's discuss it. But leave the person alone. Don't insult the individual. That is part of the problem that we're having. If you're talking about a subject matter, you can defend it. If it's an economic style of the United States that you want to implement in Mali, so you feel that would be the best. Let's talk about that. Leave the individuals alone. That is what is fueling some of these things. That's why Idi Amin will say there is freedom of speech.
Okay. Anyway, the 41-year-old academic professor has been in custody. His own charges are fake news. The country says he's been spreading fake news, and that's why he's being jailed. Okay, let's move on, guys. Thank you, George. George, good one. You put that right. Let's look at small issue. I would have wanted some of our divas to be here for this one, but let's run with it as men. There's a rising case of child adoption in Nigeria. I don't mean the Boko Haram kind of adoption. This one now is little kids disappearing from the streets, from their homes, child theft. And I think we should be talking this because it's becoming very serious. Children are being kidnapped, put into forced slavery, forced labor, sexually abused. Child trafficking is on the rise in Africa, more in Nigeria. They say that in every 5 minutes, I think, a child goes missing. Every 5 hours, the statistic says every 5 hours a child is missing in Nigeria. And 77% of those children are found, but they are found also with after effects of trauma and everything. Then 23 of those children are never found. I think it's something to look into. How come people now take advantage of this little vulnerable human and want to destroy their lives, want to use them for their own selfish reasons? George, I know you talk on social issues. I want us to talk on this one: child theft, child abduction.
It is so sad. It is so sad. When you think about what these little kids will be going through, not understanding what is really happening with them, being abducted, being sold, to adoptive parents or something like that. There's a warning. The only thing I can say, there's a warning. And that warning comes very, very seriously. It's like a double curse upon anybody that is doing such a thing. Woe unto him or unto her who is actually doing these things to these little children. Because I tell you what, their angels appear before God every moment of the time. Some of these people, that's why you see some people will just drop dead one day, or maybe they go through some serious situations in their lives and never come out of it, and they suffer to death. Leave the little kids alone. And Nigerian government needs to, this is something Nigerian government needs to, come out and begin to condemn, and then talk about people, in this particular situation. I believe that the citizens of Nigeria ought to report anybody that they suspect doing anything. And now, honestly speaking, it is so sad, because what we are looking at, somebody once said that when you're carrying somebody's corpse, it looks like you're carrying wood on your head. And when you think about the parents that are going through these things, and what kind of difficulties this little child, psychological difficulties, emotional difficulties they go through, not knowing where they are, why they're being taken to another place, and they go through this. Some of them are used for different kinds of things, sexual abuse and all that kind of stuff. It is so sad. And this is one area that the government needs to appoint a minister to look into that and make sure that it is well taken care of. If the welfare minister ought to take charge of this, they need to have a hotline where people can call and report such situations. Because a lot of times people see these things and they don't do anything, because they feel like, okay, if I do it, then what is going to happen? Maybe I become a victim myself. But if you have a hotline where you can call, report some situations, I am telling you that, a lot will be reported, and many of these things, people will be afraid to engage in such deplorable acts.
Raji, you just released that, like angry breath. Tell us, how do you feel about this? Coupled with this, gentlemen, also, a statistic just came out that 5.9 million Nigerian children are facing their food crisis.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Yes, it's a very sad situation, but I must commend the Lagos State government, because the Lagos State government is doing a lot in this area about domestic violence, about child abuse, and all those things. In fact, they have a hotline that you can call whenever you have any challenge in that area. I must commend the Lagos State government, and I think it is something that all other state governments should emphasize. Yes, should emphasize. But the situation is such that, because of the economy of the country, economics of the country, there have been so much abandonment of children, even by their parents. I've heard cases of where a woman had just abandoned a child and taken off, or attempted to sell the child, and all those things. But the economic situation of the country does not justify that.
It does not
Because
justify.
it doesn't justify it. I think especially starting from the local government, I think they should have a look at all these things. But I commend the Lagos State government for doing something about that.
So we need more agencies to begin to look into this, not just the Minister of Youth and Culture and all those humanitarian things.
Starting from the local government.
Yes, local government should take it up. Even communities, regional communities.
But you see, the situation is far worse in the north. Far worse in the north, where you have up to 20%, more than 20% of the youths on the street. Most of them will not even know where they come from. They are just given birth to and sent on the street. In the north, it is criminal.
Yeah,
it's criminal. Down south here, we still have some human feelings.
There are some humanitarian endeavors that needs to be done by the government. Okay, United Nations recently just launched a new plan to tackle this food insecurity in Nigeria. And especially they're talking about in Borno, Adamawa, Yobe State, they have been hard hit so badly, so badly. And part of the reason why this is happening in those areas is because of insecurity, number one, because these were farmers. This is where the majority of the, what the Jamaicans will call ground produce comes from. They plant a lot. Ground produce, yes. They come from these areas. So when you now see a replacement being taken place by whoever that is planning all these things, driving these people out, kidnapping a lot of them, and they're not replenishing, bringing them back again. Even sometimes when they come back, their houses are gone, their lands are gone, and they have no way to report, because this is an institution that is being done by particular individuals to replace these people, because most of them are Christians. They want to replace them with Muslims. And then secondly is what we're talking about, this particular, what do you call it again? The water that is coming and then destroying everything because of lack of planning. That's what's happening. Food shortages are taking place, number one. Number two is a flood, a lot of flood taking place in these areas and destroying their lands and all that kind of stuff. They say that 700,000 children under 5 in these places are malnourished. Should it not call the attention of the government from the federal to the states? Should it not be where they can actually, what they are doing, they can, do something, at least to people to eat natural food, to sustain them, give them a balanced diet.
Right.
Because what is happening is, we are talking about this is, Red Cross is bringing all these studies to us. But in actuality, you can multiply the number they give us by 10, because that is the actual number. Most of these numbers they're given, yes, they're giving you a hypothetical number, but the real numbers are higher than this. So these are things that needs to be done. The government must pay attention to these things. You know how we're talking about this? Let me just bring out a warning here again. You see how we are talking about this, how painful this particular situation is, and a lot of people are feeling it. There might be some people who are looking at all these things and are waiting for the opportunity to hijack the government. And tomorrow now, because the government refuses, to do something about it, and we start crying, oh, we don't want military government, we don't want military government. You better pay attention and do what you ought to do, because you are a servant to the nation, and you ought to be a servant leader, you government people. Because tomorrow, I know that, North America and Europe doesn't want anything to happen to Nigeria. But if you are elected as a servant of the nation, do your job and do it efficiently and equitably. That's all we can say about that.
Gentlemen, today has been different because we came from a different style of news update. But more important is we showed up and we did it really excellently well. Guys, I want to thank you. There are more topics, but you see, the ones we treated, we dealt well on them. We dealt very well on them. Yes. So, but we'll be coming on Friday to give more updates. A lot of things happening. George, thank you very much for coming. Raji, thank you for being here, taking your time. All be and give the updates. So, viewers, this is it. SSM Wednesday. We are through. We are out. And God bless you. Have a beautiful week. Thank you.
Beautiful week.
Yes.
Have a nice day.
The inside scoop on important social issues. Join us every Wednesday, 11 a.m. West African time. SSM Wednesday Global Africa gives